Hey everyone, I'm Nelya from Nelly Works. Welcome to my podcast, Nelly Talks, a careers focused show for those who are considering careers in tech industry or maybe looking for a change of direction in this space. We will be interviewing different speakers in this field to understand their journeys, the hurdles they face, how they overcame those, and any tips and hints that they would like to share on the way. Hi, so today we have Tsun-Yi Young with us. Tsun-Yi, it would be lovely if you could introduce yourself to our audience.
Yeah, thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Tsun-Yi. So I've been doing AI research for the past around almost 10 years, really. So I graduated from National Taiwan University around 2019. And at that time, I also joined Skate Technology in the UK as an intern and then later on full time. That's where I met Neya. And ever since, have been doing academic research, including publishing and then integrating cutting edge AI tool into some company thing. And then, uh, fortunately, at that time, we got acquired by Meta, Facebook. And then that time, I joined Facebook for around 4 years. And very recently, I changed my career to Robin AI as in research LLM researcher. Yeah, I've been working in startup and then big core and then startup again. So yeah, happy to talk about the career. Yeah.
Awesome, good stuff. Congrats on a new role. We hear a lot of good stuff about Robin AI. I'm sure it's exciting times with all of the announcements. But to take a step back, did you always know you wanted to get into this world of AI? And at the time, it might have been called something different. Um, how did you decide to enter the field of research? How did you end up in this quite a niche space?
Yeah, I think it has been a niche for quite a while, but to be honest, the time when I joined this kind of domain, to me, it's more like I love researching stuff in a more like a scientific way. And to me, I always imagine myself as in a scientist, so I really love, doing some cutting edge research and try to analyze it and then probably improve upon some of the real good AI technology. And it has been such a huge thing since 2016, the first time I actually go to an international conference, CVPR at that time. And I really, really love it ever since because you see the top of the top researcher and how they present work at that time. And I think that's really a milestone for me and my career because you actually see how people impacting not just their career, but also the world, the industry. And right now, AI is basically everywhere. So I think in the perspective of how I get into this, I think that's quite I would say milestone or a turning point to me that actually commit to it. So yeah, that's really quite a ride for me.
I remember when we worked together in Scape when you did your kind of first, I guess, like a I don't know if startup is a corporate quite, but your first industry internship, I guess. My first week there was actually at CVPR. I don't remember which year it was. It was quite a few years back. And I was amazed by huge amount of talent from academia. And actually not many companies have been recruiting at scale. It's almost like at the time it was untapped pool. Do you feel like it was an easy switch for you to move from like academia research to more of a like applied research with Scape at the time?
I think I always put myself a little bit taller in academia, but to be honest, there has been a pain for me to adapting the startup or corporational mentality because people right now actually expect you to be not just researcher but also a little bit engineering because only the engineering part can actually make a difference. I would say in the more crystallized way because some paper really needs some very very good implementation for you to actually apply them to their system or something like that. And the mentality of how you grow your career has been quite a difference when you are in academia versus applied research because you need to think about like a long-term plan. You need to think about how you collaborate with your team. Well, in research, sometimes can be a little bit more self-centered, I would say. Obviously, there are bigger research now in, for example, in Meta or in Scape actually too, is that you have to collaborate with different people, communicate with not just the research team, engineering team, the leadership, knowing the vision of it. So I would say shifting the mentality from academia to apply research corporational way has been a real impactful thing on my career. And I think anyone who try to do the same will have to learn along their way. Yeah.
And obviously, you didn't just move from academia to, I guess, more like an in-house research role. You also relocated, right, to do
Mm.
that. So, did you find that there was like many cultural differences? I know you've moved to London to join Escape at the time, and I believe that's obviously where you decided to stay. Has there been like an adaptation period, and did you have to get kind of used to not just a startup culture, which is a thing in itself, but also the local, maybe London tech community scene as well?
Yep. Oh, I love about London is that it is so diverse. I've been to different country, but to be honest, I think London is really the good balance for me and where I find my partner here. And one thing I love about the time when I first come into London is that in escape time, that was a long, long time ago, that our CTO before who he told me, oh, he asked me about my name. And there's a culture in Taiwan that you have your English name and then for communication. But it was like, no, 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 what's your real name? I was like, oh, my real name is Tsun-Yi. I was like, just use your real name. That was really, I really love that experience that you should be proud of your own name. And I mean, I understand some people use English name to, easier you just know the English name, right? But I think also it's a good thing to hold pride on your culture. And this is a diverse culture. Just be proud of yourself. I think that's really important here.
Yeah, I think we had a really like a culturally diverse bunch, which is actually really rare for I think some of the deep tech startups. And I know that was one of the things that co-founders really wanted to have because as you'll know, diversity of ideas comes from diversity of backgrounds, and some of the best products have that. How did you find this whole shift? Obviously, when first real startup got acquired by a huge company like Meta or Facebook at the time, how did you find that transition from kind of very small kind of micro business with obviously impactful tools, but then going into this one of the big FANG companies?
So before I joined Meta or Facebook, it was my dream to go there. So I actually planned to go there in 5 years' time after I joined Scape for, learning stuff. And then that just happened quite suddenly. I find it quite fortunate I can directly learn how they work. And to be honest, it's not all rainbow and, like there are some pain actually. And there are a lot of learning to do. And like I stressed in the first place is that I think it's really good to have a mindset shifting from you are like a closed room doing your own research versus that you open up and you need to build your own path in not just in career but also in the mindset of this project can go far and beyond. That project might be a short detour. Something that I didn't learn in my PhD time is that how would you say you have a team in London, you have a team in US, maybe other places as well. And how do you plan to communicate better? That's a very, very important part. Communication actually not just about talking. It's about how you present your result. To be honest, grabbing attention is quite important here because there are literally, I don't know, 100 different research per day happening in, Twitter, Facebook, or archive, not just in the top conference anymore. People publish their research in a daily basis, which is kind of crazy. And how do you grab those attention amount almost like a tsunami level of research? This is what you're going to battle with. And that's the same in either big corp or a startup, including myself right now in Robin. Is like you need to understand the vision need to be so far away rather than just short-sighted. Yeah, I would say communication and build your path, not just in career, obviously career important too, but in how you plan everything and how you make friend actually. Not talking about like a powerful friend, more like the friend who is aligned with your vision. So you'll be happy, working with them, building relationship with your mentor, with your manager, and with your ski manager even sometimes. So that's something I never really considered when I was in my PhD time. So yeah, quite a shift.
Yeah. And obviously, like you, I have ended up working for Meta as well. And I think it was interesting thing that you mentioned about communication, because this was, try not to talk about COVID, but this was literally around the time. I remember my first day was when the lockdown in UK started. And we had to, from recruitment perspective, move everything from on site, which is a cool experience with Facebook at the time. You know, they fly you over to US, I know, normally for onboarding. A lot of them just had to stop, and companies had to embrace remote working from interviewing perspective to onboarding. And it's not just the new people who joined that didn't really weren't familiar with that, but also people who work for the company who are adjusting on it. I'm sure you've had loads of like trainings on the comms, cross-functional working like we did, but it was a big learning curve. And obviously with that there is a ramp up with learning all the tools and things that come with big companies. So yeah, I think that was a shared experience that I've had trying to have impact whilst building community and growing, you know, yourself, like you've mentioned, mentors, managers. So, you know, your career does well in the process of navigating this crazy thing that COVID did, you know, like getting enough exercise, you know, being able to go and do your food shopping with the masks on, etc. I remember at the time, I was also personally, I was actually pregnant with my youngest daughter at the time. So for me, it was like, oh, I don't feel like I should go out at all, you know, like, so I was definitely lived in the bubble. So it was crazy all the time. So it's good to see that you've managed to adjust. It's all about that, right? Adjusting, adapting, and
Mm.
actually using that network around you. And in terms of companies like Meta, do you feel like one of the attractions, I know you said it was like your dream to work there, what do you think it is about those companies that really attracts people and talent? Do you think it's their brand in the name, or is it like maybe the impact that you can have by developing tools for someone like that? Because I have people reaching out to me nearly every day on LinkedIn, just asking, like, you know, for tips and hints, although it's been like over a year since I stopped working there.
Mm.
What do you think it is for like AI, ML, you know, specifically people within LLM research community that makes it such an attractive place to work?
I think so. Maybe 5 years ago, Meta was my dream, but right now I feel like I've been graduating from there. And I would say, to be honest, everyone is hype about AI stuff. Some of them will be hype, some of them are not. And I think there are basically so many opportunity that I really love. For example, my current startup at Robin, I feel like as perhaps someone is just graduated or someone just want to change their career, I think it's really important they understand about building their own portfolio in terms of your reputation, how you work, because it is possible that you work for, say, I don't know, 7 years in a company, and because the company is a closed loop and no one else know what you're doing. So I talked about this a few days ago with a different event, but I think building an open portfolio is so important. It doesn't have to be, you know, something like a conference paper. It can simply be a blog post, a side project, small project, but useful. And you have the mindset of still have, this is what I learned in Meta, is like you have to have the mindset of how do you grab others' attention in the communication bit a bit more efficient way. For example, if you say, oh, I do a research or I do a side project, how do you show it to say either LinkedIn community or Twitter community? Is that did you just post a link, a hyperlink, and with a few words, or did you post like a comprehensive, say, GIF or video file, and make people you don't even need to explain it? I think how to find a balance between what you want to say and the balance between the how people can actually receive is so important. And to be honest, I'm learning it myself as well. Is that how do you convince people your vision is aligned with part of them, but you need to convince the part that you are disagree with each other. And the open portfolio can train you up. And the best thing about this is that there's not a scoreboard there, right? You can just do it today. If you fail, it's fine. Let's do it tomorrow again and again. And no one's keeping the score, right? Like you can delete your post if you don't like it, and you can create a new post if they really like that one. So try to learn from the open community. In the meantime, try to build some serious project that it's not like a side project has different level, right? You can say, oh, I built a very simple tool, one file Python. You can build a relatively complicated system. It doesn't have to be, or you can just say, oh, I do a research about a specific component about transformer. To be honest, very every detail in the training process transformer can be quite impactful today. It's just that you have to show how you do the research, how you either engineering product, either is an insight of the business perspective, anything really. Try to build your open portfolio and then do it again and again and again until you success. There's no shame of failing. It doesn't matter if no one is seeing that. I don't because they didn't see that. I mean, no one care, right? Take it off, do it again. Don't be afraid. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. A lot of career opportunities come from that type of, because it is a personal branding that you're doing. And I know Twitter is a huge for research community. It always has been.
Mm,
It's probably a tool I have not navigated enough. I'm sticking to LinkedIn, which is true to my profession. Also, you can see that like a thought leadership, knowledge sharing becoming more and more of a thing. And it's almost like necessary now because, despite producing great research, obviously from career perspective, if no one knows about it, kind of you limit the opportunities that you have.
mm.
And that's also recruiters, talent people, co-founders. That's how they found Twitter, Medium, not just Google Scholar anymore, or your repositories, your research like code work. It's that kind of, I guess, it's like a natural evolution now of research and having to, and it's also, like you say, open sourcing it, giving it like more equitable access to people, which it hasn't been a thing for a long time as well, because a lot of research is quite closely guarded by companies, and it still is.
I think there are different ways to do this. For example, like you say, maybe you are professionally in LinkedIn. That's fine. You don't have to do Twitter. I think the point is finding a place that you are comfortable with and you are good at. For example, I know people, some of them are doing review, simply review, nothing new. It's just that, okay, I'm doing review for, say, I don't know, legal stuff for LLM, or say, I don't know, generative AI for video. Just that. And they will call it, there's actually a code name for this called awesome something something in a GitHub. As long as you search this name, you can see super comprehensive review for different area. Myself already did one for local matching and retrieval a long time ago. And I found this is a really good trend because anyone, either new or old, they would like to know the recent trend, right? And you can be that person who track the trend. In the meantime, you learn something and then you build this portfolio for yourself. There's nothing new there. It's just hard working to search which one is important, which one is not, and try to organize it in a either tabular way or just list way, anything really. I think this is super easy to start. Just review a trend or something like that. Yeah, I think that's really interesting and easy to do. Yeah.
That's great advice. Thank you. Loads of tips. Whoever's listening needs to be making notes. I almost feel like I need to make a LinkedIn post out of this and obviously credit you with all of the cool stuff. I might add it to the summary. And in terms of, I mean, I know you obviously had a really great career today that's, I'm sure will only get better. But what do you think in general? Obviously, 2023, as I think we mentioned at the start of the call, there has been huge hype around kind of Gen AI in particular, with different players developing different solutions. Many companies trying to kind of see how they can deploy Gen AI in their tools across different sectors. What do you think about that in general? How much of it is a hype or versus like a general scaling from technology perspective? And also, how has it impacted your role? Have you seen maybe more opportunities, more companies looking to hire experts in this field as a result?
Yeah, I think 2023 is a turning point because of ChatGPT. I think I still remember the time when I was in Meta, it's like everyone just like ChatGPT, ChatGPT speaking over and over again. and try to somehow integrate that part into whatever the thing you are doing. Apparently, we are still doing that in every single industry now. And I think when people talking about hype, it is more about inflating somehow because when the internet just growing before, like very very long time ago, it was, they also call it a hype, but internet is obviously a very big thing now. I would say there will always be some way or some company, some direction might fail because it just want to connect the AI label to their company, but they are not really doing anything, or maybe their vision is wrong. Either way, I think the hype will be related to those kind of things. But in the long term, actually, I believe AI just is not even taking off yet. Because if you know the NVIDIA, their computing power, they are already, I don't know, trillion level company, but the demands just keep growing because in the industrial way, in the mathematical way, in weather, protein, everything legal, document analysis, retrieval, everything literally is using AI right now, and it will only grow. It's not going to stop. I don't see any reason to stop really. And the AGI, which is like to me, it's like a little bit hype term. It's like, why do we even need AGI if we are human? There's a debate, maybe a little bit philosophical debate, but I really believe the scientists will keep pushing this direction, such as Yan LeCun and Ilya and Sam Altman, these people in the big leadership, they will definitely push for this. In some way, we'll be much closer in, I believe, in 5 years' time. And I just find it very interesting if you think about right now and maybe 5 years ago, people would say the deep learning or the NLP, this LLM network, they are just saying that, oh, they are just learning, I don't know, some statistical pattern or something. Some people still saying that today, and look how far we got. And I have strong belief, not just in LLM, but the whole AI in general, it will just keep going up and up until we reach a point that we are actually living the future, even now, really. Before, we don't have a system that convince is almost human alike. Now we already have in multiple different company. Can you imagine that 5 years ago? I cannot. So I would say this is, we are living in a magical moment. And if you can call it a hype, but I would say in my vision, I see this will keep going forever, and it will only go up. Yeah.
That's great. I love that you said magical moment there. I also remember I've been to, as you know, I'm in Buckinghamshire, very close to the Bletchley Park, and there is a Microsoft AI meetup that I go to just to learn from people who are cleverer than me, because obviously there's so much information, and as a talent professional, it's important to absorb that so you can be credible. And I think someone is saying AI is happening with us at the moment, be helping to build this technology. Very soon it will be happening to us across every sector, across most daily routines. So again, it's about embracing the change. In terms of people who may be looking to enter this field, like they kind of, maybe people finishing their PhDs or just people finishing master's degrees or entering via different routes, apprenticeship, etc. Do you feel like it helps long term, given the vast amount of research areas in this field, to have like a specialist focus? It could be computer vision, it could be specifically kind of more, I don't know, speech focused research. Do you think having that vertical in your research and then career really kind of helps to navigate this domain?
I think you really need to be an expert in some sort of domain. And I think there's a misconception that when people say they want to join the AI domain, they always like thinking, oh, should I get a PhD? Should I get some sort of conference paper like these people? So I think the mentality has been shifting quite differently now because, for example, my current company, I actually, first time I learned there's a position called legal engineer. It is basically that you need to be legal professional while you need to understand at least part of how the machine learning work. And I mean, I'm not a legal expert, but when I'm working with them, I was so impressed by the people who actually navigate both. And the fact that they are valuable is not because they are AI engineer. It is because they are both. That is so fascinating because if you think about this, is that you don't need to code too much this day because ChatGPT will only grow stronger. Like Anthropic, Mistral, so many different company can support you in natural language. Meaning that if you say you're expert in recruiting, say you're expert in legal or anything really, historical, I don't know, cosmology, whatever really, and they are a tool to help you to do your job better. But the thing is that you have to frame your work a little bit different than before. It's not like oh, now you join like an olden big corp and then you suddenly become AI expert. You probably won't. On the other hand, I find there will be many opportunity in the startup region because startup usually want to break the old framework. That's why I bring up the legal engineering part, is that I find it is so interesting. I know many people are doing labeling tests for AI. Let's be clear, AI is nothing if there's no data, and that's why data is so important. However, not every data people can collect, right? If you think about, say, image labeling, mostly everyone can do that in different time, but very domain specific, say legal labeling or I don't know, some historical document verification, that only require those people who is so specialized in those cases that you cannot trust normal people because they've never been trained on that. So this is the challenging we are facing right now, is that okay, you have a bunch of army of solicitor or lawyer, or maybe you are in such domain, say, I don't know, historical treasure finding, hunting, whatever that is. And if you think about that, that's a new opportunity for them, right? It's not like AI is going to take your job, or you need to collaborate with AI and find a new perspective of it. And I think there's also a misconception that when people say, "Oh, I'm using ChatGPT already," and they consider that as in AI, I would say you have to find value, not just that, "Oh, I asked ChatGPT about something and they return to me, I'm using AI." I think you are just using it as a tool, while using it as actually an AI perspective will be something like, "Oh, something has been done so slowly before." And somehow you're using this AI tool with either very simple prompt or something you design brand new, and you are expert in some domain. In our case, it's legal, and you speed up their process, say, I don't know, 5 to 10 times, then that is valuable, right? That's super valuable. And that is not easy because the domain expert is actually so rare, or actually so hard to get to that level. So I would say if you want to go to AI domain, don't give up you already have. Is that maybe you have recruiter talent, you have whatever talent, you have teaching talent, whatever that is. But you have to thinking about a new perspective. I think an easy way would be checking some startup. There will be some new opportunity. Maybe it's an intern, maybe a resident, maybe it's a full-time, part-time, whatever, and see what they are doing. And oh, it's like, oh, what I work with, for example, you are a teacher. Maybe I can incorporate or learn from them. It's like they are doing this. Maybe I can try to do the same rather than, oh, I need to go back to school to study a PhD. I would say the mentality of this world has been shifting away from that. Yeah.
That's great to see. And I remember actually after leaving Scape, before deciding whether to join Meta, one of the startups that was offered a role was Juro, which is also kind of where going into legal AI has since attracted funding, done really well. But at the time, because I actually have a law degree, and that's what grabbed their interest, because they said, well, you've got the industry context from your education, you've got the skills, and we kind of basically innovating this space. So you're absolutely right, leveraging any experience that you have, and you probably have interest in that area, right? If you stuck around for a long time in that field. And yeah, I just remember like the data that they gave around the speed. They were specifically focusing on legal contracts, and there was earlier days of like productizing AI. It was amazing. And you know, as I said, you can see a lot of startups, and startups, as you'll know, both you and me know, they can also count like dog years. You know, the amount of exposure and responsibilities you normally get even as an intern. Startups, AI startups, were some of my first in-house roles after agency. You just get to learn things, you get to meet different people, which is maybe you wouldn't necessarily do if you just gone down the conventional, educational path. Of course, it will be right for other people. That's awesome. And in terms of kind of, obviously, there are more and more companies that are entering the space in different sectors. Obviously, the amount of funding that's being attracted is huge. This space, and probably also in combination with like a clean technology, is two sectors I think they've done really well. How do you feel? Have you seen with that kind of more job opportunities, more teams being built? How do you think a company's doing from what you're seeing on LinkedIn, from events with diversity and representation? Because I'm sure, like in any product areas, any teams having diversity is very helpful. I know you said that's one of the things you like about London. Do you think that it's still a priority, or is kind of building a team quickly and just getting the best people? Do you think that is dropping on the agenda? As the AI becoming so big, I've noticed that from hiring perspective, um, there is a bit of a D&I fatigue almost kicking in many recruitment processes. How have you found it? Do you find yourself surrounded with people from different background, from maybe different research background, labs, different parts of the world, or is the trend going the other way?
Oh, definitely. It is so diverse now. I feel like the thing is good about AI is because it's a worldwide effect. So I feel like, say, a company want to hire the best of the best. Normally, those people, the best of best people, they will have multiple offer. That's quite common. And even if you're just a beginner trying to find a new company, I think there are two things, right? One is hiring starting people, and the other thing is hiring senior people. I think in both way, a company try to find the best potential or best fit of that field. When they have multiple opportunity, it's kind of easy for them to go either way. And the company try to hire as many as possible for those talented. It will eventually end up with a diverse race background. I think that's quite common, at least what I see in at least Scape and Meta and Robin. They are all the same in London. That's what I like about London is that people see the opportunity here, obviously in both compensation, in career perspective, and how the life work life balance and how you entertain yourself and find your partner, etc., etc. London is just a good place to balance everything, my perspective. And I think I remember there was one thing say about from Scale AI, their CEO, talking about how they hire people. It will end up simply be when they hire the best people, it simply become the diverse people simply because the best people are all around the world, which is great. So it end up being like, okay, if you are from a country, how willing are they to pay for your visa? That's really a bottleneck when you want to come work here. And I believe multiple of my friends actually encounter similar issue. For example, you want to work in A company, you want to work in B company, they need to sponsor your visa, etc., etc. This is simply a realistic problem you have to face. Is that you need to convince somehow that a company is willing to do that for you. In order to do so, again, you need to build out your open portfolio, say why you are expertly desperate to hire you. It doesn't have to be, you can start with internship, you can start with something small, say part-time. I think it's incredibly important that you don't want to restrain yourself that, oh, you are a closed company so you don't do anything public. I would say, I think if you do something really impactful, it should be go beyond the company. That's why I feel maybe it's hard to some cases, I understand that, but it's always good to have a mindset to make some contribution to the open source. For example, in academia, we actually do a lot of paper reviewing, which is something you can serve the community. And it is like nasty work, to be honest. You don't really get paid. I would say just treat some of them as in service for, giving back to the community. And other than that, I think, yeah, as an immigrant, I feel like diversity is so great in London, and you need to somehow convince people to sponsor your visa before like you actually settle down. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I relate. I think one of the first things when when I hired for startups, and I continue to do so now for Nelly Works, is to convince them to register in a visa sponsorship scheme, because yes, it's an investment, but I mean, you have access to global pool of talent that often, it'll be silly for us to think that all the talent's just based in X country or X region. And yeah, and this is how you kind of level up the opportunities. And as you say, if you open up the access, go out to things like you've mentioned, CVPR, other events, there are a lot of kind of industry specific events, then you will, as a result, attract diverse talent. It shouldn't be kind of like a name in itself, but there are definitely mechanisms. And visa sponsorship and also things like, relocation, supporting internships, which many startups actually say, oh, it's too small, it's too early. I mean, you've seen with the companies like Scape, I know you've seen obviously Wave, how well they've done. Obviously, it was company we closely were associated with at the time, just by embracing that early talent and give them opportunity to do the best research and learn those more like hands-on engineering skills, have engineers support them, seem to be like a formula for success. Those companies tend to do, get acquired. If the exit is a success criteria, secure funding and kind of build some impressive solutions that some of the big players struggle to compete with, because you have that great hungry talent, they have freedom, and a nice environment to work in. No, that's good to hear. And I guess from you've given loads of tips, so thank you so much. You're definitely giving back to community today. I think if I were someone looking to enter this field, I'd be making notes, as I said, very carefully. But I mean, I know you said there's a huge amount of information to digest. There's loads of research comes out at scale. Do you feel this type of role allows you to have like a good work-life balance? I know you mentioned London is a great place. As someone who's experienced now, and you feel now, you said you've been for 10 years, so like a senior in your career, how do you balance, if there is such a thing as a balance or blend? Do you think this is a good career for someone who then maybe potentially wants to, start a family, have kind of all the other things that we work for outside of, we want to have outside of work as people? Do you think this sort of profession allows you to have that? You kind of, how you happy, how you kind of coping, adjusting?
I think relatively yes, but you have to understand one thing is that once you, when you work, when you are a little bit more and more senior, time by time, job by job, you have to make certain sacrifice in terms of maybe you have a lot of meeting, maybe you have a lot of planning. In the meantime, you have a lot of AI model to research, trend, following the new trend. I think somehow you have to have the mentality that this is your life now, and if you actually enjoy it, that's great, right? But if you don't actually enjoy it, then you have to think again. To me, it's just fascinating to, you don't have to do like a, book by book research, right? You just watch the YouTube and the newest, I don't know, Anthropic opening, OpenAI opening, whatever research they're publishing, Tesla AI, XAI, and Grok, and then Hugging Face, Mistral, so many of them, literally so many of them. You have so many different resources now. So when I say researching, I would say it is incredibly important to have a lifestyle. You're actually following the trend to understand, for example, what kind of challenging we're facing. Say, okay, we have large language model now. What's the next step? For example, I believe the chief scientist in Meta, Yan has been talking about LM, how limited it can be to reason. And for I don't know how many months now, it's like if you follow a little bit about their Twitter, you will see like aside from the political drama there, and there are so many things they care about. They would just post it on a daily basis, like why this paper is great, but it doesn't solve ABC problem, and understanding that, tracking that now is part of your life now, and it's like, oh, if you find it fascinating, then yeah, you're probably good at this job. And I wouldn't call that process as working, because it was like I was just like scrolling how the new information will be. And to be honest, that will be beneficial for your work too. It's just that, is that characterized as working? To me, it's not, and maybe to other people it is. Then they'll probably have a very painful life if you want them to adopt this idea. So it end up with like what kind of thing you like, right? If you enjoy this, and be part of your lifestyle, then maybe you are good for this job. Yeah.
I think it is that. I think like when people ask me why do I still enjoy hands-on recruitment, why do I still like speaking to research engineers? Because I just love it. As you say, it doesn't feel like work. It feels like I'm having conversation. I'm learning about the people. I do think it does come down to those questions, like doing what you enjoy, identifying areas you like, and obviously if AI research is part of it, there will be opportunity there. The market is kind of ripe for it. And yeah, like with anything, you need to have your strategy and support network to kind of help you guide through like the rigmarole of information that gets thrown at you. But you seem to have done it really well. It's been kind of awesome to come to learn about that journey at Tsun-Yi. One thing, and this I know this question gets asked a lot with podcasts and career talks, etc. But I just wanted to kind of leave our audience with a last thought. What advice would you give your younger self starting up in this world of research, now reflecting back on the 10 years of work you've done? If there are any hints, tips that I haven't covered so far, what would those be?
I think when I was firstly joined the startup, I think I lack of mentality of career growth. I think when we say research, if I look at the best researchers, say Ilya in OpenAI before, now he left, and what kind of difference between me and him is like, firstly he joined the Jeff Hinton's lab, and then the OpenAI. Obviously, the success of OpenAI is not from one person or two person. It's a like huge team. So I lack of the mentality of career growth in terms of lead and being lead. This is quite important. Is that you need to know someone will be leading, someone will be following, and you might want to grow a little bit by little bit, day by day, and that's important because you might graduate as a PhD or whatever degree you have. You might be a lawyer, you might be, I don't know, successful businessman, but you are not alone. You're going to work with multiple different people. If you restrain yourself without the idea of building this career along with this connection and along with the team, then you will be quite limited in terms of growing. And that's the thing I learned it in a hard way, and try to grow with the team, try to lead the team in a concrete way, not in the up in the air, those imaginable way. I would say one thing I love about my previous previous key manager. He's told us about how important it is to adopt the new research to engineering level. It's such, even if you don't invent anything new, there's such a long way between research and the actual product. And it not just product, it's like even if you are just halfway to the product, it is hard. And so how do you do that? You need to have good relation with your engineering team, with your marketing team, with your leadership team. And every single one of them is so important. You cannot do this on your own. You have to have this mentality. You are now on your own. You have to try to be, I would say, a spider somehow. It's like a web in even different dot, different connection, and you are your own center, right? As your own center, how do you align with them? How do you convince these other people? This people skill will lead to some real academic or engineering or business success. It's not like, oh, I read paper day by day, I do research day by day, and the success will come. I think it takes much more than that, and I didn't realize that until I'm very, relatively old. Yeah.
Not old, Tsun-Yi, not old. We are in the prime of our careers. But yeah, but it's great because and thank you for sharing that, because I know a lot of these lessons are kind of learned the hard way through like trial and error, like the engineers would say A/B testing.
Mm.
So you're right, kind of leveraging the teams, the communities, and the networks just gives you access to things, and you can maybe avoid making those mistakes. As people say, it's hard when you have to learn your own mistakes. So yeah, I think this is the purpose of this podcast, just to shed the light bring the stories and also show people that, you know, you can reach from point A to B in a different ways, you know. But yeah, it's great to see that having that career focus from the early on when you start is really important.
One thing I would like to add is that when I say building a connection, say leadership level, I would say it is important to know yourself as well, because sometimes you might feel like, okay, leadership is right, you are wrong because they are more senior. But over time, I learned one thing is that you are choosing them too. And then if you say your vision are aligned, maybe it's a little bit different. Then that's great, right? You follow them and then you try to do your best job. I think that's the best scenario. But there's also a case that you might not be too related to their vision. It is not about they are right or you are wrong or vice versa. It is about your life, right? You want to work with someone aligned with their vision. And maybe both vision will work, maybe both vision don't work, who knows. But you probably want to choose the part that your vision are aligned and you can grow each other. Not like if your vision is completely opposite, that would be a quite negative impact to both of you and your team, right? So I think when I say building connection, building this team mindset, career growth, I think it's also important to not compromise in your own heart. Is that I know I'm certain way, and okay, you learn something from them, but you don't need to negate yourself completely. I think that's a good mindset to have when you interact with someone you're more senior than you. Yeah, I think that's important.
Yeah, it's great. I think you'll know this term from Meta Facebook days. You know, you have to turn up, but try and turn up as your authentic self. I know it's overused term, and people like roll their eyes, but it's honestly true. You need to bring a set of values, be comfortable questioning things, because you know we all hopefully work to earn a living. So it helps if you enjoy it and you believe in it, and then it feels less like work and more like fun. So yeah, great insight. Thank you so much for sharing that, Tsun-Yi. It's been lovely to have you today. And yeah, so it's been pleasure speaking to you, and I look forward to seeing your progress with Robin AI. I'm sure it won't take long. Thank you to all our lovely listeners for sticking with us. I hope you found this useful, and please do share, like, etc. Check out our next episode that comes out in 2 weeks' time.